Welcome to the Humanity Leadership Podcast. My name is David Wheatley. We're here to talk leadership in small, bite-sized and practical chunks. Enjoy. This week's episode, I want to talk about something that I recently discussed in a conference in DC. And we were asked about those areas of leadership that are really not focused on to the level that maybe they should be. And my choice was space. And when I mean space, I want to look at it at a few different directions. So the first one is the space that comes in the pauses after a question. And one of the things that way back, I think it was episode 18, I discussed with Margie Haganey was the data that says after we've asked the question, we should count to 10 seconds before we do anything else. And I've consistently used that and consistently found that it's hugely valuable. It's amazing how many times people respond around 8, 9, 10 seconds. In some cases, it's 11, 12, 13 if I want to leave that space. But that space, it's a little uncomfortable at first, but then you find that people do answer. They're thoughtful and they answer and they fill that space. But the willingness of a leader to create that space is the first step. And we have to get comfortable with that discomfort and just leave that pause. The second area of space is in not answering. And when people come to a leader with a question, they're quite often hoping for a straight answer, just tell me what to do. And that not answering and creating that space, that asking, maybe even asking a question, what do you think? Create that space, push it back onto the other person. And then it's not the leader who's dominating, it's the leader that's creating that space for somebody else. The third one then is strategic time. And if you're in a leadership role and you're not scheduling strategic time, you're not finding an hour or two a week to actually sit and look up, think about that bigger picture. One of my clients has focused Fridays where they try to do some more of that big picture stuff, try to stop having all the meetings that are operational and give people the space to think out a little bit, look up, plan ahead, just get a bit more creative about things. But it's about finding that space. And in a world that's busy, we're overwhelmed, we're demanding more of people, there's all these pressures, the drivers to a different place. It can sometimes be really difficult to find and own and allow, kind of hold that space for you and for the people around you. It's often when I'm in a leadership team, it's interesting to see who holds the space and who invades it. Who are the people who jump in anytime there's a gap? And who are the people who are step back, quiet, patient? They still ask the question, still engage, but most of the time they're taking in what's going on. The last place for this space is in what I've called before on the podcast, safe venting places. And sometimes your colleagues are looking for some place just to get rid of their red path thinking. And so your ability to hold that space for people, to not react or judge what's coming out of their mouths, not even really have to pay that much attention to it, but just hold that space for them to vent the red path. And then at the end of that space, ask them what they're going to do about it. But this idea of space and creating the gaps is critical to leaders. It makes a difference maker. And that practicing that space is something that we don't do often enough. We get into the rhythm of being busy, of loading, of more and more and pile stuff on top of each other. And when we do that, it just sounds like noise. When we create the space to breathe, the space to think, the space to ponder, the space for people to think about their own solutions. When you create that space, you create a better energy and a better result, better impact. So as you go about your work this week, think about where you're creating space for the people around you. That was the Humanity Leadership Podcast. My name's David Wheatley. For further information about Humanity, go to humanity.com or check out our latest book, What Great Teams Do Great, from all good bookstores. Have a good one. Stay healthy.